All right, everyone, welcome to the 250407 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. We are getting underway at 6:50 p.m., slightly delayed, and we're having some technical difficulty. It is hurting our live stream tonight, is my understanding, but we will make sure to post this. If anyone has any concerns about anything related to the agenda, we'll read it as always. Just email peteopera@townofstandrews.ca. But again, we will post this, and the Zoom link is working for this one, though. Is that correct? Okay, good. So it's just stream through Facebook seems to be the technical difficulties, right? So we apologize for that. Seems like it's on.
It is, but it isn't. But so, Your Worship, it's showing on, but it's not showing. It's actually completing on my computer. So it might be showing something, but it's not live on my
system. You can see it online.
Okay.
So it is. We might be live. Okay. So. I want to note that all members of council are in attendance as Councilor Blanchard is joining us virtually. And again, want to recognize that we are on unceded traditional territory of the Peskotomuhkati people. There is a number of items on the agenda tonight. Is looking for a mover, I guess, first to get on the floor. Got Councilor Yield, seconded by Councilor Heaton. Any changes? I'm still that we will be going to closed session this evening.
Yeah, so that's my answer. I'll pull it up. Yeah,
I'll read which one it is under the Local Governance Act, but it is related to the employee issue. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any other changes? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of improving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I can see Councilor, but he's really small, but I can see the hand from here. So that is everybody. And any conflict of interest this evening? I see none at this time. Let's go right ahead right now. There's no presentation, so let's do the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any? I'll do them the speed way that I do. Is there any changes to any of them though? Just to get you to slow down. I'm seeing none, so let's go through them very fast. The first part of the minutes of the 2502-24 special council meeting on Monday, February 24th, 2005 at 7 p.m. We have a mover for those minutes. I've got Councilor Heaton, second by Councilor Harlan. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That's everybody. The minutes have been carried. The next minutes are the 250303 regular council meeting on Monday, March 3rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Mover once again. I've got Councilor Neal, Deputy Mayor Akagine seconding. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, Council. Two more sets. The next are the minutes of the 2503-17 public hearing objections to amendment said 22-09, Monday, March 17th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. Once again, you know the routine. Mover, please. Councilor, we'll give that one to Hurdle, second by Councilor Harlan. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. I'll go slow to give the next one to Councilor.
Abstain from that one, Your Worship. Sorry. Your
Worship. Councilor Blanchard's abstaining from this next set of minutes.
Oh. Yeah. Maybe next time, Councilor Blanchard. The minutes of the 2503-17 regular council meeting Monday, March 17th, 2025, 6:45 p.m. Councilor Ware.
Yes.
You want me just to get a seconder on that one, then open it up? Councilor, I think Bennett, I see the hand over there. Okay, over to you, Councilor Ware.
There was one motion, one is top page 35. I abstained from voting on that motion on elevator tankers or whatever.
Okay, I think the issue on that is there is no formal and procedural bylaw way of abstaining. When you abstain, it's a yes. Is that correct?
It is a yes vote. So the concern here, Your Worship, comes down to those that abstain from minutes because they weren't here. It's still a yes vote, but they're abstaining because they weren't here. For those that are here in council, the procedure is it's a yes, no, or an abstain, but your abstain is a yes vote. So we may need to talk about this further as a policy process on how you want to register abstaining votes through the policy.
I saw a whole number of things here where people abstain vote in these 4 sets of minutes.
And I'm happy to remark them as abstained, but noting for the future council, we should look at the procedural bylaw as it pertains to abstaining and how you want that registered in the minutes.
Right, so on that note, you prefer to have that in as abstained?
Well, if everybody else is, I don't signal that.
No, I agree on that. Maybe we should review the procedural bylaw on that. Council, are you okay if we make an amendment just to put that Councilor Ware abstained from that particular vote? Let me revisit the issue. Does anyone have any Can I have a mover to make that amendment? We've got Councillor Bennett, seconded by Councillor Eden. Any discussions on changing that to being that Councillor Weir abstained from that particular motion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Okay, that change has been made, and now we're back to the original question. All in favor of approving the minutes now, please signify by saying aye. That has been dealt with. Thank you very much, Council. That will wrap up the minutes. We are jumping into communications. I just want to note that Council received within the staff report, so very detailed, actually, monthly update from Explore St. Andrews. I'm not going to go through it in the essence of time, but I believe because it's part of a council package, this is now a public document. Is that correct? So if anybody would like to see the monthly update to council on Explore St. Andrews, you can now come by town hall. I'm sure staff would be happy to print off a copy of those so you can see it for anyone that whether your business is one that collects the levy or you're just a member of the public that would like to see it there. Public record for anyone to see.
And your worship, please note you are now live to Facebook.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead to the next update. And I'll keep it brief, but I just wanted to recognize that April 7th.
Your worship, hold on a second.
Sorry.
Excuse me, your worship, just reference the Explore St. Andrews monthly report. I was wondering if I could ask a question here. This report is very inclusive and very detailed, and I certainly appreciate the effort that went into it. However, last year, early in the year, we had a review of the previous year's Explore St. Andrews activities and their budget and everything, and we haven't seen that this year. And all of a sudden now we start seeing these monthly reports from Explore St. Andrews. Is there going to be a time when we see last year's report from Explore St. Andrews?
Yes, Mr. Knopper.
Through you, your worship, Explore St. Andrews presented during the 2025 budget proceedings where they did provide you background reports on their previous year, as well as their budgeted year and budget, which was approved by council at that time. Council did request after that monthly reports do come forward similar to staff reports to see what's going on a monthly basis. But if council wants another copy of their last year's report and their this year's goals, I'm more than happy to ship that out. I still have that on record.
Was that October?
October. Yeah.
Thank you, worship. Thank you, Paul. I would like to see a complete report. When Explore St. Andrews presented that to us, there was a number of things that were missing, and they said it was because it wasn't the end of the year yet. So we didn't get a complete history of what happened last year, and I would like to see that. Thank you.
I'm sure as those are collected tax dollars, we want them to come back in and make a presentation. I think it's a reasonable request from council. I'm just looking for council consensus. If you'd like an updated presentation from Explore St. Andrews on their activities for 2025. Just a quick show of hands. Sorry, but so you want to look back at 2024 as the final and not 2025?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2024. Sorry about that. Thanks for the correction. No, show. No, sorry, go ahead.
I just think if we're going to have a discussion, I think it would be helpful to both look at 2024, but also to have an opportunity to further review the goals and objectives of 2025. So if we're going to have a discussion with them or a presentation, I'd like a fulsome presentation that includes both last year and the focus for this year.
Council aligned to that, I would say.
Yeah.
Hey, show of hands if you would like the presentation on 2024. I can see that. So we'll reach out to Explore St. Andrews and say that we'd like an updated presentation and just to talk about the upcoming year. Thank you very much, Councilor Bennett, for bringing that up. I didn't mean to expedite past it. So I will jump into the NB organ tissue program request. Set here. All right, so April 7th, which is today, is Green Shirt Day and National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness. And then also they have the week, which is from April 20th to 26th. Just a couple of quick things I want to highlight of the information they sent us is that over 4,100 Canadians need an organ and tissue transplant. And unfortunately, every year over 250 patients die waiting in Canada. And another interesting stat is over 90% of Canadians support organ and tissue donation, yet fewer than 32% have registered their decision to donate. So just a reminder out there, the importance of actually not just supporting something, but take action when you're able to. So what they're looking for is for us to light up town hall, and I did talk to Mr. Knopper before the meeting. We thought that it would be fitting to do so during their actual week, which again would be the April 20th to 26th. Just a quick consensus, and everyone is aligned to lighting the town hall up in green for that particular awareness cause. Okay, seeing no concerns, so Mr. Knopper, we will go ahead with that. Thank you, everybody. And we're jumping ahead to staff reports. Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, finally, we are seeing a return to spring after Sheila's Brush made an appearance in late March. We are slowly swinging into warmer weather planning as capital projects that begin to take shape. Public spaces will be cleaned up as we prepare for another busy year. Under council, after months of consultation and discussion, the vehicular bylaw is now before you for third and final reading. In the end, the primary changes are reduced speed limits to 40 kilometers an hour from Reed Avenue to the Point, an additional couple of stop signs, and an update to deal with the proliferation of campers that we have seen over the last couple of summers. Spaces. Excuse me again. Another item on the agenda tonight is to consider the composition of council. Currently, the town of St. Andrews has 9 councillors plus the mayor. While this was initially recommended during local governance reform in 2023, it also came with a caveat that we should review it before the next general election. For comparison's sake, Moncton and St. John have only 10 councillors, while Quispam Sis, with 19,000 residents approximately, only has 7 councillors. However, Grand Manan, with a slightly smaller population, also has 9. One of the ways to think about this is a ratio of population served per council member. And in St. Andrews, ours currently runs around 275 to 350, while in other areas, it is more than 600. There will be financial savings if council pursues this option. It would make our meetings a little tighter. However, it is council's decision on how you'd like to proceed. Staff brought a proposal to reduce the number of councillors in Shamcook Ward to 1 and the number of councillors in the St. Andrews Ward to 4. Thank you. Bringing the population ratio to between 355 to 550. There has been a precedent in doing this from the past when prior to 2004, there were 9 councillors and it was reduced to 6. During the meeting last month, staff asked council to table the application for the Canada Community Building Fund to correct an issue around funding the wharf project. We now have taken out the wharf portion and added in projects at the Arena and Bayside Community Hall to offset. The funds are provided annually, and in return, staff need to submit year-end reports showing the use of these funds. Our current recommendations can be amended in the future, but to receive the current funds, we need to submit the capital investment plan. Over the last few weeks, there has been a discussion on creating parking on both King Street and on Water Street by the trailhead. Staff are pushing this discussion another couple of weeks as we work to get better estimates on the projects and alternatives. Both are planned to be funded out of the Tourism Development Fund, which is also currently paying the washroom updates at Town Hall. I expect we'll need to choose one parking project over another in 2025. Our 3 councillors from Bayside and Shamcook, plus the mayor and staff, had an opportunity to meet with representatives from the Department of Transportation Infrastructure around concerns about the state of the secondary roads, including concerns over vegetation clearing and crumbling roads and shoulders. They also spoke to capital projects and normal maintenance routines. To address immediate and ongoing concerns, staff will review the roads with the councillors in a motion or letter to the minister to prioritize the issues is recommended. Staff have received the first draft of the zoning bylaw from the planners at the Service Commission. We will be forwarding this to council shortly, actually we did over the weekend, for your initial review, and then we will have a workshop with them to go over it more thoroughly. This is tentatively set for April 28th. After that, there will be public presentations, more consultation, and discussion with the citizens as we work to pass this and the municipal plan in the fall. Administration. Concerning the wharf project, staff continues to work towards the final design and being able to put the tender out in the late spring. We need to define an offsetting project which we're able to do and have found a partner to just share the cost with us. The next step would be for council to review the near final drawings, and then it'll be issued for tender. Once the tender is open in late June, we will know if we still have the proper budget to proceed. The town is also continuing to explore options of putting in an apartment behind the New Brunswick Community College. In partnership with the Regional Development Corporation and the Housing Hub, we are looking at all options to build affordable housing for students, workers, and those with limited income. Although the lot has its challenges related to improper fill to put a building on, we still consider this a good option to develop for its walkability and access to the college and daycare. In the last week of March, Megan Carey of RSC Strategies was down to do in-person consultation regarding the Recreation Master Plan. In addition to 2 public consultation sessions, they also met with several stakeholder groups and went to the schools to talk with the youth. We appreciate everyone who took the opportunity to provide feedback, including completing the community survey that was issued over the winter. We want to provide the public with update with the various washrooms in town. Refurbished and expanded facilities at Town Hall will be operational by the 3rd week of April. The arena washrooms have been completed after the water line break and just in time for a couple of tournaments to end the season. The new washrooms at the trail and the ones at Centennial Park will not be open until the 1st week of May, as we need to wait for consistent above freezing temperatures. Please be advised that there are 3 full-time positions for employment available on the town website: an arena and parks attendant and 2 positions in a recreation department focusing on the youth center. These have been advertised for a couple of weeks, so anyone interested should quickly go to the website for further instruction on how to apply or call Town Hall for further guidance. The mayor and I represented the town of St. Andrews Advocacy Days held in Fredericton in late March. We were able to hear from the Premier, Minister of Local Government, and the Health Minister, as well as most department officials from other portfolios. A couple of key takeaways are, in addition to fiscal reform, the government is also committed to property tax and assessment reform. They are forming another working committee on the latter, but there's no commitment on the timeline. Some of the money being used to manage the tariff concerns will be given to municipalities as well, but details will not come until May. Horizon Health and Vitalite are proceeding with opening more collaborative clinics across the province. The Premier is committed to this locally, both St. Stephen and Blacks Harbour were identified as priority locations. Services. The fire department had an open house on April the 5th to display the new ladder truck, as well as have a push-in ceremony to bring it into use. Although we've had it for several weeks, the department has been training on it in preparation for putting the truck into active service. We have seen how this is a much-needed apparatus for the area, primarily for the safety of our volunteer and staff firefighters, but also to more efficiently fight chimney, roof, and multi-story incidents. Please be advised the large brush collection program is beginning on April 25th, and that you will need to call Town Hall to make arrangements for pickup. Leaf bag sales have also started. Bags can continue to be purchased at Town Hall, but after our current supply runs out, we are unable to bring in any more. However, other local retailers carry these and are similarly priced. A reminder that the collection of leaf bags is more sporadic, so leave them at the end of your driveway and will eventually be picked up within a day or two. Please note this only applies to the residents of the original town who are still serviced by our local public works department. Please also note that on April 25th, Town Hall will be closed as we undergo electrical upgrades on our main panel. We are looking at potential ways to keep the office open or relocate to the arena. The winter park and band is now over, and we thank residents who complied. We offered morning tickets the first time, and it was usually enough for people to make alternative arrangements. In conclusion, over the next few months, besides all the spring activities, there'll be lots going on with the council. Staff will work hard to keep everyone informed about any sessions and available documents that affect you, our citizens. Please keep engaged as these processes, as it is truly an exercise to allow residents to chart the future of your community. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, Chief Administrative Officer.
Here, any member of council have any questions related to the staff report or financial report that's included in the package? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion to accept the staff reports as presented in this, and the council again, and second by council, I'm gonna get the Blanchard, I've been waiting for it. Okay, all in favor of accepting the staff reports, please signify by saying aye. That's everyone, that has been completed, we'll wrap up that, we're now in the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. The first one will go to planning and community development, and it is Councilor Harlan.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. This is reference number PCD 250102. And the subject is amendment Z 22-11 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for the second and third readings. The background is as follows. It has been identified by the planners of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission and town staff that there needs to be text amendment changes to the zoning bylaw, specifically related to fencing. Challenges with this section of the bylaw have been highlighted, especially through the planning advisory committee processes. The bylaw processes to date are as follows. There was a public hearing of objections February 18th, 2025. Obtained views of the PAC February 19th, 2025. First reading March 3rd, 2025. Public hearing of objections April 7th, today, 2025. Second reading and third and final reading. If council is satisfied with the feedback received on this amendment and are in agreement with the amendment as written, council can proceed with the second and third readings. So the first motion is that the council of the town of St. Andrews grants leave for the second reading to amendment Z 22-11 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for the town of St. Andrews. And I so move.
Thank you, seconder. Councilor Neal, open for discussion. Councilor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, perhaps. I think you guys are on the line. Just regarding the correspondence we had earlier today, I wonder if it would be possible for applicants' variances would be able to access information on ways to reduce their costs. They can define additional sources to build the fence. So at least the service commission would be able to respond and be able to lower cost options.
Sorry, I had a hard time hearing that. I know it was a question about cost, but it didn't quite come through.
Sorry, go ahead again, Xander. Or Councilor Hurdle. Can you say your question again?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just because we had correspondence earlier today regarding that the types of materials that the change would require people to use might be cost prohibitive. If there's information or services available at the planning commission that might be able to direct people to the lower cost options and ways to help relieve the burden of the expense.
We can certainly, I mean, we do that with materials for buildings. If people are trying to find different options, but I do think it is probably true that these materials will be more expensive than something like chain link. And initially this the Z2211 was drafted so that this requirement would only be in the historic business district, but through PAC's feedback at the last council meeting, this was amended to include all residential properties in the town plat. So it was initially conceived of as the larger burden would be placed on properties in the historic business district, which already have additional requirements through the secondary plan. We will certainly work with applicants to help, answer questions about whether materials will meet the requirements. But there are, I think, most people assume that chain link is the cheapest option, and that's something that would be not possible with the way the amendment has changed the bylaw amendment.
We know there's struggles with technical issues right now, so.
Yeah, so the gist of this, and I think why the letter we received today, maybe the question is, it seems like the materials that are listed were traditionally again for those sort of businesses, but now we're expanding that to the entire town plat. And I think we all agree that wood, stone, brick and the iron are, they're ideal, but what I see in the community when I drive around is a lot of those steel poles that are put in the ground, and then you've got almost what I call the wire deer fencing that people, and the reason they're doing that is because they don't necessarily want a fence, they're doing it to protect their yard from damage to deer. And it's a lot cheaper, it's something you can do on your own versus hire a professional company to put in the other one. So I think when I drive around around town, and I did today after I got that letter, so I wanted to see exactly what they had. Over to you on what your interpretation is, but it's still transparent, you can still see through it, you can still see the yard, it's just something that's affordable, so I think that's the whole basis of what that letter was today, and I see a lot more people doing that than paying for the professional fences, and I'm not saying that someone can't put up their own wood fence and stuff like that, but the average person can. And I think that's fundamentally what we heard today. Back to you, Councilor.
Anyway, and I remember we brought this up before, and I have a memory of it, it's not applying to the events. It doesn't, okay, so that would still, it doesn't apply, okay.
No. From my interpretation though, what's happening right now with this applicant is right now, they need permission to leave that fencing up.
Through you, your worship, right now they're going through a PAC variance on setbacks. The concern now is that they currently have the fencing up and they were working through a process with neighbors and trying to find a solution within it. The situation is because they don't have development approval on the type of fence they are using, they are subject to whatever change council makes in the current amendment.
So I think before, if you're using deer fencing to wrap it around a particular area, this is almost like a fence around the yard is the way that's set. So it's kind of something that someone could interpret and say, hey, I'm covering my garden, or no, I'm covering my whole front side yard. Because it does wrap from the front to the side, but council, over to you. It's one of those ones that's tough, but the reality is we've reached out for years to the province of New Brunswick, and the only resource we have is a nuisance side, and all that has done is really keep the population more in check than it has decreasing it. So people are frustrated, they're trying to protect the property, they're trying to do it in a way that is affordable. And again, I understand the other side of the council, you've got to weigh out that certain types of fencing, if not done properly, can definitely alter the look and feel of our community. So it's a balance that needs to be played by all of you. And I feel bad for the individual that wrote in today for not having an opportunity to speak to council. And my recommendation just on that is we do second and third when we have no opposition to something, but an individual trying to get on tonight to Zoom, we had technical difficulties. I think give them the opportunity. I don't think doing second and third, in my own personal opinion, would be appropriate tonight. I don't see why this has got a time crunch on it, so I don't know why you just make this go quick, right? That's our back to you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to table it. I also think that we need to be a little bit better when it comes to interpretation on the bylaw as well. I don't think this is that kind of thing we can give to interpretation, especially when it comes to deer fencing. But I think we can be very clear and more.
So maybe what we'll do if the council sees it at the table is appropriate, let's go back to this and have a conversation, make sure that we really distinguish the difference between what's deer fencing and what's fencing. And it just feels right now that there is a little bit of a gray area in between the two, which you obviously don't want during bylaws. And again, I can appreciate the fact that what's the point of having a bylaw if everyone's going with
Your worship, Mr. Gopin wants you eventually.
But if we have a bylaw and everyone's going for a variance every time, that isn't good either, right? So
Just, your worship, Councillor Hurdle put a motion to the table on already, so you should decide that before you flip over to Council. Mr. Gopin.
Okay, Councilor, all right, so we're gonna move a second. We want to hear from Mr. Gopin quickly, just to round up the conversation, then I'll do the vote. Just out of essence that he might have some additional information. Everyone go with that, Mr. Gopin.
Thank you, Your Worship. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. If people are wrapping netting around plants and stuff, then that's not considered fencing. It is when there are posts in the ground. The current bylaw is incredibly confusing and difficult to interpret. So it's currently creating lots of issues at PAC. I think in my opinion, the way the bylaw was originally drafted, there were no public objections to that. It wouldn't create these issues that have come up now. And from my point of view, there's, I guess, not a time crunch, but I think there's no way for us to really administer fences at this point. I guess we'll have to keep doing it the way we've been doing it. But that's going to send a lot more files to PAC. So while it's a kind of minor administrative thing, it is something currently that's taking up a lot of staff and PAC's time.
Mr. Worship, before Councillor Hurting tabled, I didn't put my hand up because I wanted to.
We're still good. Like, we haven't voted on the table yet, so you're
All
still
right.
good.
I represent a few people that live in my area that have come to see me and they totally disagree with this idea of not being able to have, proper, nice chain link fence in front of their houses because they cite all kinds of examples of falling down fences, et cetera, et cetera. So I would not be in support of this amendment. Thank you, Worship.
Council, so I've got a motion to table this. Basically, until we clarify this, it seems like it is creating a lot of variances that are creating staff time and PAC's time, so I think we table it, we just need to have a lengthier conversation, revisit it, so whether we support it or not, we should make it clear. So, I'll go to you, all in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Worship.
That's everybody. We'll revisit that. We could hear you, but it was very difficult.
Your worship, we will bring it back in 2 weeks, so we'll work hard to try to get the information you need in the interpretation. The only thing I have to ask, Councillor Gopin, Mr. Gopin, is if we amend the bylaws as written right now, will we have to do another hearing of objections?
If you were to go back to the original way it was written, so it only applied in the historic business district for the materials, you've already had the public hearing on that. You've already had the views of PAC on that, so you wouldn't have to do it again. If it was to change substantially in, I guess, a third new way, then yes, it goes back to public hearing, and if it's something different than what PAC was involved in, it should go back to PAC as well.
Thank you for the clarity.
Councilor Hayden. Oh, sorry, Councilor Earl first.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question, just in terms of definition, and I might have missed this previously, but is environs, is that a clearly defined word?
The environs just includes the portions that are abutting the town plat. So it's not the entire old municipality of St. Andrews. It's just a little bit on Prince of Wales to the north side of it. I can't remember all the streets, but I think Harriet.
The boundary.
Yeah.
Perfect.
At one point, I think there was the idea of the town plat and environs. The environs was everything that used to be the town, but that's not the case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board Councilor Hayden.
The next motion, Your Worship.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. This is reference number PCV 250404. Appointment to the Planning Advisory Committee. The Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, of the town of St. Andrews was accepting applications to be new members of the committee to fill vacancy. Staff had completed a review of the application and interviews with the interested individuals. The Planning Advisory Committee currently has 6 members, but can go up to 10 members total. In review with the PAC, staff are recommending to add 2 individuals to the PAC for a total of 3. And the motion, Your Worship, is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approve the following members to the Planning Advisory Committee. David Solier for a 2-year term and Rebecca Mergereau for a 2-year term. Your Worship, I so move.
Thank you, seconder for that one. Councilor Bennett, discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. That is everybody. Council. Oh, yeah, I did say it. That's everybody. That is carried. Thank you very much to both those individuals for volunteering. And I So Rebecca, I didn't know she was a municipal councilor in British Columbia before moving back to Sherman County, so. Good to have both members raise their hand for the planning advisory. Next motion, Councilor Heaton again.
Thank you, Worship. This is PCV 250305. Proposed service agreement with SNBSC for Heritage Officer and Permit Process. With the newly enhanced Heritage Bylaw for the town of St. Andrews and the appointment of a Heritage Officer, the town has to look at a new service agreement with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission for the Heritage Officer and Permitting Process. This was not a service included in the original planning service agreement. Please see the attached document for details. The agreement outlines bullet 1, fee for service basing, only used when a heritage permit is triggered through the application process. Fee Schedule A for breakdown of cost. Use of heritage officers for application processes, review and follow up and permitting. Heritage inspection services, supporting the function of the Heritage Board. Liability and insurance coverage, termination clause. Council tabled a motion on March the 3rd, 2025, as staff wanted to review options for heritage inspection. The agreement has been updated to reflect the inspection services, which are included in the service fee costs. In addition, with the approval of agreement, a member of Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission will be appointed as the heritage inspector. The first motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the Heritage Officer Service Agreement with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission to oversee the handling of heritage permits and heritage board processes. I so move, Your Worship.
Then the seconder for that one will be Deputy Mayor Akerchuk. Discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving this first motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye, Your Worship.
And the second motion pertaining to this.
Thank you, Worship. The second motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews appoints Mr. Alexander Gopin, Senior Planning of Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission, as Heritage Inspector. And I so move this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councilor Heaton. Once again, second will be Deputy Mayor Akerchuk, I believe, or she's getting your pen running or?
No,
Yeah,
no.
okay. Once again, any discussion on this one? Councilor Ware?
Yes, I think this is something we should add to our list of cost allocations buckets, as you refer to them. Applies only to.
Thank you, Councilor. It's a good point. Anyone else? Councilor Heaton.
Your Worship, I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Alexander Gopin for taking this on. We do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Copen. It is great to have a professional other part of the Regional Service Commission that can help us navigate through these early days of such an important decision made by the community in order to have such a bylaw. What a lot of people would call long overdue in the community. So thank you for your leadership on that. It is appreciated. We're moving along to Deputy Mayor Akerchuk now. Do we vote? Oh, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Way ahead of
Thank you.
myself there. Deputy Mayor Akerchuk, now we're going to. The man cold can distort people. Significantly.
And thank you, Mr. Gopin. Your services are done for planning.
Night.
A 250423. And it's community assistance grants under 3,000. The town of St. Andrews received 10 applications to the community assistance grants for under $3,000, totaling $16,350. Council has a budget of $14,000. Please see the attached documents for details and recommendations of the review committee. The review committee is recommending granting $5,650 from the Community Assistance Grant Funds and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund. If the recommendations are accepted, the council will have $7,850 remaining in the budget for 2025. So the motion is this. that the council of the town of St. Andrews awards the following community assistance grants for 2025 at a total of $5,650 and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund. 2. The Anglophone School South District Turnaround Awards of $400. Charlotte County Ground Search and Rescue for $500. New Brunswick Woodcarvers Association for $500. St. Andrews Paddle Club and Sir James Dunn Academy for $500. The Open Door Food Program, Food Forest for $750. St. Andrews Arts Council of $1,000 and $1,000 from the Albert McCoy Fund. Sale St. Andrews for $2,000. And I so move this, George.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Acton. Seconder will be Councillor Keenan. Discussion on this one. Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Let's get carried. Next motion, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Richard. Next motion is on the number of discussion on council composition. You want me to read what you read? Sorry.
Page 111.
Sorry. The next one is this one. FA 250328. Canada Community Build Fund projects for 2025. The background is this. The Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, is a stable, predictable, and index source of funding provided upfront in provinces and territories who, in turn, flow this funding to their communities. The funding allows local communities to make strategic investments in essential infrastructure, such as roads and bridges, public transit, drinking water and wastewater infrastructure, and recreational facilities. For the town of St. Andrews, our funding starts at $183,467 for 2024, and it grows to $198,756 in 2028. Staff are recommending that the funds be used towards various water line replacements throughout our water system. Bayside Hall and the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. Details of the proposed projects and the official plan are attached, and staff originally proposed project on March 17th, but due to stacking regulations, the wharf refurbishment is not an ideal project for this funding, and council tabled the motion. It should be noted that council can amend plan as needed in the future if other projects take priority over what is proposed. So the action of the motion is this: that the council of the town of St. Andrews adopts the document entitled the Town of St. Andrews 5-Year Capital Investment Plan for the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, and I so move.
You're looking for a seconder once again. That one to Councillor Hurl, I'm short a couple times. But I think that was today. Discussion on this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, it's pretty fantastic that the community gets this large influx of money that we can use in different projects. And I'm all for spending the money for the community and stuff. However, our public works, when we had our training just after getting elected, before we started, we had a couple days training here with staff, and they were very clear to describe the public works as self-funded, and that the funding for the public works only comes from the people who use it and benefit from it. And in this situation here, money that's meant for all community members is only going to be spent on people that benefit from having town water. And so that's one issue, I guess, that I've got with it, that and not only is it only used on a portion of the community, it really excludes a third of the community who doesn't access, doesn't have water delivery at home and stuff. So it's I don't see how you can only spend money that benefits one demographic of the community. Also, in our own code of conduct, all counselors are supposed to think of everybody in the community when we make our decisions and vote for different things in council. And in this situation, by approving this or asking us to vote on this, you're asking us to only think about a small or 2/3 of the demographic of the community and ignoring the 1/3. And for that, I think that would be a serious code of conflict for asking us to do that. It very much excludes a large portion of the community, and I don't think that we should be doing that. I do like the idea of spending it on something that we all benefit on, like say, the O'Neill Center here as a whole, we can all benefit from it. But when you apply it to something like the waterworks and town water and everything else, and then that certainly it excludes a large portion. So that's something I think that we should seriously take into consideration before we go ahead and make this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilor Bennett. We've taken on a portion of the funds going towards the town water lines. I don't think anyone's at a breach of the code of conduct though, because we do make decisions every day that only certain user groups, for example, would benefit from and other people may not. But I do see your point on it's money going to the community and only specific people do benefit from it. I do see your point on that. Councilor Keenan.
Your worship, do I not see Bayside Hall in here?
Yes, but again, Bayside Hall is something that all of us can use, no different than the WC O'Neill Arena. So we're welcome to go to the Bayside Hall and use that for. Yeah, it's like the arena, it's like Bayside Hall is, they're from all wards, and sometimes not even from our wards, they're from other wards too, that aren't even inside of our jurisdiction, but I do see the point. I will say that on the other side of this though is, the water system, and we can't use other grants that come to the community when we're solely relying on just revenue from the users. It will be hard to sustain because when other municipalities are doing work to their water lines, they are using a combination of grants and user fees to pay for them. But I do see the point of ground a well. How does that benefit me on dollars that are coming to the community, right? So over to you, Councilor Harlan.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Mr. Spear, can you, is there any way for you to give us some kind of a breakdown in terms of how the dollars would be used related to the WC O'Neill Arena or the Bayside Hall versus the water line replacements? Is there any way to provide even an estimate in terms of, is it a 1/3, 2/3?
Well, in a discussion with council a couple of weeks ago, I explained, I guess, I'd asked at that time if you were okay with us 50-50 split, 50 between items that were part of the general operating fund, which are, funded through tax revenue and other means, and then half on the utility. And so that's what I endeavored to do. Is, as the mayor pointed out, the utility is underfunded, is old, needs to be repaired. And, besides, there's still lots of people that live within the old St. Andrews that don't have access to the utility too. So it's, and specifically these projects are only affecting certain streets. So it's only, a dozen or 20 residents that live along those streets are going to be the most beneficial. Not everybody throughout the thing. It's only a small portion of the total cost to go in it too. It's minuscule compared to what the total cost of these things are. So I understand the concern of Councillor Bennett, but I think it's an important thing to be able to spend this towards water and drinking water. And again, another way to look at it, maybe there's lots of residents in Bayside and Shamrock who obviously don't have access to the water supply. Some in Shamrock do, by the way. There's things like, economic development. There's people that work in town for access to businesses that have water and things that, we could just, I could counter argue it a little bit. I'm not here to debate, but it's just, it's a little helpful to everybody. But right now, the plan has about a 50-50 split between the utility and general operating. Everything in the general operating side, we tried to find things that we are shared, mostly in recreation, to absorb that percentage. And Bayside Hall and Arena.
Thank you. And so you, I'm afraid I have to declare that I failed to remember when you asked us, but obviously you asked us if we were comfortable with 50-50 split. When did that happen?
So 2 staff meetings ago.
2 staff.
Yeah, when I was brought you forward, we were talking about how you'd like the breakdown to go. We brought recommendation. I said, the utility really needs this input to move forward.
And we all gave this agreement.
Yeah, there wasn't a vote per se. I proposed it. Everybody said kind of yeah, forward with that proposal, the council. And so that's what I've done. And I mean, it hasn't changed any since, I brought this to council a couple weeks ago. And the same thing was there. The utility was always there. We just changed it from the wharf to these others.
Okay, just on that, though,
Thank you.
Too bad it's got a follow up as well, but all of these things were the support before they were to go ahead, they would come back to council anyway, and we would vote on them individually on the amounts. Is that correct?
Actually, that's not correct.
Okay, so once we give this authority, it would be approved within.
Yeah, so if we follow through with these exact projects, they'd follow through as is. If council decides, or staff recommends, maybe you want to reconsider something, especially something 3-4 years in the future, would come back to you and say, we think this plan could be used in these other things, or a priority could take place anywhere. And they say, well, we'd like to redivert the funds to, a new hall in Shamrock, for instance, and the council can decide at that point. It's just the money comes automatically, but without having to submit reports. So we have to submit something to them. And this is what staff's recommendation that we thought we had council's support on, at least to get started.
Thank you, your worship. And I appreciate your recalling of the events, and you're 100% right. You did give your recommendation on where this money should go, but there was no discussion whatsoever by anybody on council. It was purely just your recommendation. We didn't get an opportunity to discuss it, and here's my opportunity to speak, and thank you. I've had an opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. Councilor Ware.
Yeah, just make a comment, in the documents attached to motion, there is a breakdown by category and by year as to where money is going, and recreation is getting. The losses are strong, 459,000, drinking water, 91,000, and onward, but so the whole financial analysis is there.
By years,
By year and by category. I will take this opportunity to bring up one other issue, which I've been concerned about for almost longer than I'm from. And that is the utility fund. I think we're sitting on an underground mess here that's all gonna crashing up on us, I guess, or the pipes are gonna collapse or something. And it's something that council should look at doing some long-term planning. Otherwise, the entire municipality is going to end up paying for a lot of it. It's not supposed to be self-sustaining.
Thank you, Councilor, and I concur 100%. In fact, Adam Sturgeon in the CRC showed a wonderful article on kind of fiscal reform and really the predicament that a lot of municipalities are to become sort of how far behind municipalities are on infrastructure, and the town of St. Andrews is no different. We'd like to think we are, but we're not. We're seeing some of the communities around us have lengthy delays in their water and boil water for going multiple weeks, and the when you get into general operating, I've talked before, there's reason to be concerned. But the utility fund, if you actually look at that, is the area that needs the most attention. And I know that we've kind of converted it now to pay for what you use. I think that's the basis of trying to get more revenue, but I do think it fundamentally comes back to we do need fiscal reform to happen, because what it costs to replace these pipes and the ground and the roads that we have in our community, like we look at how much a road costs now, and it's not sustainable with the current revenues that any municipality has. So I'm really excited. I know they've made some promises with no dates. I really look forward to all municipalities in New Brunswick having some type of system, because your comments are spot on. Every project we delay, we're playing with fire, as this is aging infrastructure all across this province, including St. Andrews, and you know, when you get into certain roads, because it's sort of different roads, and the Ghost Road, for example, just got postponed again. We're just delaying it for projects, and it's going to catch up to us all eventually. So thank you for that. I do agree. Mr. Spear.
Just a couple of things, Your Worship. I do agree with Councillor Weir. One of the things we've put this off a little bit is to see the effects of the consumption meters, to see how that affected revenues and things. So we'll be going through our second billing this month with it, so we'll get a better idea of revenue sources. Our asset managers got a 5 or 6 year plan that's fairly solid. I mean, short of the water towers falling down, the whole system is going to go down. So just not to make it sound like we're on the verge of a ticking time bomb, but that said, there's lots of pipes in the ground that are 50+ years old that need to be addressed sooner than later. And that it's the priority of staff. We're just kind of waiting to see what happened with the revenues. We'll have 2 readings after this next month on it, and we'll be able to do some planning moving forward and make recommendations. I guess I say this at budget time all the time. We're kind of on the lower end on the average cost of water for the province. And I'm not saying we need to increase rates, but I am saying that we have to look at it, and we know where the tax bills have gone in the last couple of years. It makes it very hard to do that. But at the same time, and as Councillor Weir correctly pointed out, they're really supposed to be treated differently. The tax dollars aren't supposed to support the water, the utility. And so, we've got to figure out how to manage this in the long run.
I will say I'm looking forward to a couple building cycles, so we can see the analysis on what the new rates do. I can just talk about Hotel Henderson, and my rates have over doubled and not close to tripled, I believe. So, but I've got a family of 5, and again, we talked about it. That makes sense. I pay more than a senior citizen who lives on their own in this community. It's just the right thing to do. And if I want to save on my bill, I should be conserving water, right? So, I'm really looking forward to that analysis. But Mr. Spear, you think that'll be probably another billing cycle, and we'll be able to kind of, as a council, look at where this is going?
For sure. It will have more answers. I said, Andrew's very close to getting it done, so there should be a bill out by the end of this month, and then we'll start to look at it. Definitely by the budget time, if not a lot earlier.
It's like you're losing their hockey right here soon. All right, back to the issue at hand, though. Anyone else on this particular motion? All right, we'll call the question. All in favor of this 5-year plan, please signify by saying aye. 2-year plan, right? 5, it is 5.
5 years.
2-year plan, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's sure the 1 day ago. Thank you very much, council, for that. All right, the next one is not a motion, it's a discussion on council composition. There is a staff report from Mr. Spear in here. It looks consistent with what we've seen in the past. I'll pass it over to you for this.
Thank you, Worship. And I guess I'll go through it relatively quickly. I think my staff report kind of touched on the highlights, and council has seen this mostly, but it goes back to local government reform back in 2022. And in order to make it feasible, to time, the facilitator through the Minister of Local Government thought we should allow each ward to have representation. So based on that, Shamrock had roughly twice the population of Bayside, that they doubled, or that 2 representatives from Shamrock and 1 from Bayside add to the already existing council at St. Andrews to bring us up to 9. Now, looking forward, we do have, comparing ourselves to other municipalities, we do have a large council. There's no doubt about it. with the exception of Graham and Ann. But even St. Stephen, I think, might be similar sized or one smaller, and they're about double the population. As I said in my report, the cities have about similar sized councils with 20 times the population. And so it's just, again, the facilitator thought we should have a look at it. Staff is just bringing forward. We've had it on our radar since then. To bring it forward, there'll be some savings, with potentially if 3 councillors are reduced by the next general election, and this would take place, but I didn't make that specific. It wouldn't, if council approved it, all that would happen is that when we come to the next general election in 2026, there'd be less seats at the table being elected for, so it's not going to affect anything on this council moving forward. And then there'd be some savings, and then just, it might shorten our meetings, whether that's a good reason or a bad reason to do it, I'm not sure. But that's why staff is bringing it forward. We did have a recommendation. It's just, it kind of kept the numbers the same in a way that Shamrock would lose a councillor, and then the St. Andrews ward would lose 2 councillors, kind of keeping the original 2/3, 1/3 composition of council, but that's just a recommendation. It's, on staff, kind of one way of thinking, but there's a multiplicity of ways that we could do this. I do know in talking to Minister Kennedy that there's multiple councils also going through this exercise. None of them have made a decision, but they're going through it, and local government is interested enough that they're going to be putting out documentation over the next couple of months about the proper way to do it, and forms to file with Elections New Brunswick and stuff if we follow through with it. So they're expecting that multiple jurisdictions will reduce the number of council. But again, it's not a staff recommendation. We just bring what the facilitator said and what we're kind of seeing. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you folks to decide how you'd like to proceed. And even the minister, it's just giving you the opportunity, not suggesting that you should. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was, I think Councilor Ware was the most, but I don't think he was the representative of the pay side there, but I was part of all conversations, and the information that was provided by the facilitator, basically, the Cole's notes of it was, he said that all councillors and city editors retain their positions, you automatically have 6. Because of that, Shamrock Bayside, if you look at your total population, will be about 1/3 roughly the population of the base. I have to do basically 3 councillors from Shamrock Bayside. Combinations up for debate. What ended up happening with the population is Shamrock had 2, Bayside got 1, although there was talk about the parts of the Bayside ward, warranting it. There was conversations of, is it 3 at large for that ward, or should it be specific? And what, from the comments from the people representing the wards in that meeting, is they thought that Shamrock and Bayside should have unique councillors. So that's where they got to the 6 and the 3, and they said, you will have a vote. And they said, I don't really need a vote. If that's the thing that works for everybody, it does. So that's kind of where we got to the 9, and the facilitator said you will be over indexed, but that's something you'll have to figure out for the next election. So we're at that time. Council, over to you. The recommendation kind of keeps that spirit of the 1/3 of the population in the new ward, Shamrock Bayside, 2/3 in the old. And that's why the 9 total councillors goes to 6 for the breakdown of even proportion. I will note that Bayside still has 1 councillor per 355 of the population. Both the Sayers and Shamrock ward have 1 for over 500. But I think it's important for Bayside in these early days of reform, in my opinion, to still have a unique councillor to that particular area. But over all of you on what you feel. So what you're looking for is direction. Is that safe to say for a motion to come at a later time to make an official decision?
Well, it has to be an amendment to the bylaw, whether we create a composition of council bylaw or just amend the procedural. It's in our procedural bylaw for now. So it's got to go through 3 readings and all that stuff. And so this isn't the final say, but we kind of need to know how you want to go. It could even be that you say, well, we're open to it. Maybe we should have community consultation first. We just need direction of some kind. You can say we don't want to consider it. There's also an option on the table, as I've said before, and we can go down that route, and it stops tonight, whatever council wishes to tell us to do. Keep it G-rated.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. When you look at the population here and look at other municipalities of similar populations. They're in the same boat. They, very low number of residents per counselor, whether it's Fundy Shores or who it is. So, for other municipalities this size, they're facing the exact same problem. I guess my other comment on it is that going into this, I thought Camco and Bayside were basically the same, but they're not. There's quite a bit of difference. We have our industrial area, we have our extensive agricultural fields. So we are slightly different. Probably same mentality, but different priorities, so to speak. So, I guess the only advantage I can see to having this many counselors is staff does have the opportunity to dump some work up onto the counselors, get us do more committee work, because we really don't do a lot of committee work. Some do, but some don't. And that I think is something that town administration could have taken better advantage of. But I don't think I was in the meeting with facilitators, so, they just.
Oh, so what's gonna happen?
We didn't really, you just told them what happened.
I thank you, Councilor, appreciate that. And yeah, you are right, we have more of a committee of a whole approach versus that individual committee. And I'm sure staff would debate that it might create less work by doing committee whole versus individual. We won't go there today. Council, anyone else on this proposed council composition of going from, again, 9 councilors to 6 councilors? And again, it is noteworthy as well, this proposal does save tax dollars, about $42,000 as well, which is highlighted. Councilor Hurl.
Thank you, Your Worship. This might be not the best question, and maybe nobody here can answer this one either, and that's fair. But it could be argued that local governance reform is sort of a sense of overreach for provincial government. One of the concerns I have is that by reducing the size of the council, we somehow reduce our influence on the provincial and possibly federal level too. Wondering if we were aware of any way that would actually happen, or if it's just one regulation of my purpose.
I guess it's speculation, anybody to be blunt. You don't know what's thinking it would change election by election. But I think, from my working, especially at the provincial level, that they look at the community as a whole. So whether we had 3 people around the table or 300, it's still looking at the community and the needs of the community. And a lot of it goes on the characters of the people around the table. And all I mean by that, though, is that lobbying is a big part of it. And some areas are very good, some areas aren't very good. So, just you aim to carry more of your weight in order to network and make your voices heard for any initiatives that are coming from provincial and federal governments and see what you can do. Again, we're children of the province, essentially. We exist because of their legislation. Some jurisdictions is different. So it's better to keep that relationship in Fredericton. Federally, they look at us, but we're relatively small, and that relationship, they tend to go to the province anyway, and especially for a relatively small province like New Brunswick. So St. Andrews wouldn't have the same carry or the same weight as, say, a Toronto or even a St. John Moncton. So I don't think the number of councillors will really make a difference on that. It's just a matter of that each of the representatives are active in dealing with the various ministers and to make their needs heard.
Just want to give that an opportunity to thank town staff with the experience they bring to those conversations and negotiations with the province, the federal government. I think having in this community being able to host those discussions has always been a huge benefit to our community. So thank you.
Council, just to note, again, council composition doesn't impact granting or grant funding that we apply for, or or different grants that we apply for the federal government and provincial government, that it has no bearing. They look at us as a community as a whole as well. So just to give that reassurance that staff are not concerned about if we apply for funding.
It's not always, but sometimes it feels like it's not the number of counts versus the population that you represent that comes into play sometimes. Feels in rural areas anyway, as reference the housing accelerator fund that show a small community in this area, was a recipient of. Council on this one then, unless anyone feels opposed, I think we can start the process, but it doesn't mean that this is the be all end all, and you'll have plenty of time for engagement. It would require a hearing of objections, 3 readings in order to become a reality. Just getting a temperature check and everyone feels like we can start the process on that, as it will be a multi-month process.
So, I don't want to be hard to get along with. Well, maybe I do. But nonetheless, what is the process? Do you want us to do up a bylaw and present it to council to start the discussion, or?
Yeah, so the bylaw, though, just to be specific, it is on the composition of council. The number is there more pertaining.
We'll have to review it. Right now, it's built into a procedural bylaw. It might be my recommendation that we separate it, but the clerk and I can discuss this. At the end of the day, it's either an amendment to the procedural bylaw or create a new bylaw that takes out that portion of the other.
Well, while we're doing that, we can talk about the abstaining on the vote, since that was up tonight too. We might as well make it part of that process, because you'll have to read the procedural bylaw too, then if you're taking something out of it, right?
Yeah, well,
If you're
so
omitting something from it, you still have to repeal it, right?
you would, if you, through the bylaw process, if you created another bylaw that talked about council composition, you would repeal it through that bylaw, superseding it, or
But
having it
just the section.
just that section.
Just the
Yes.
section.
Yes, just the
That's being
section.
affected.
Yeah, so it sounds like we'll have the full view of it before we continue anyway now. That makes sense, everyone. All right, thank you. We'll keep moving on. Next one is Deputy Mayor. I'm just gonna recuse myself for a second, just to breathe here.
So FA two
Oh,
five,
sorry.
Go ahead.
FA 250426. And it's the request for proposal number PSA 2025-03 Sophia Street Land Award. The background is this. The town of St. Andrews completed a request for proposal on PSA 2025-03 for the sale of town-owned unserved land on Sophia Street. The town received 1 bid submission. Docks on the Bay Incorporated, $80,000 plus HST and applicable fees. If the town approves the bid, terms and conditions should be placed on the property at the discretion of Chief Administrative Officer. Examples of terms and conditions include: 1, that the area remain a parking lot with green space. 2, that if the property is to be sold by the proponent, that the town has first right of refusal of purchase. So the motion is this: that the council of the town of St. Andrews accepts the bid of $80,000 plus HS2 and applicable fees from Docks on the Bay Incorporated for the request for proposal on TSA-2025-03 with terms and conditions will be established by the Chief Administration Officer. And I so move and yours.
Thank you, a second here. Okay, Councilor Heenan, discussion on this one. Councilor Ware.
There's, I think, a typo there, that's town-owned on service.
Yes.
I caught that. Hope everyone was just kind of whistling with no sun services should have been.
And I guess we had talked earlier that perhaps we were selling it for a little less than appraised value, but when one looks at the conditions we're putting on it, you can't expect to get full market price and put conditions like that on a piece of land. So just who justify this money less than appraised value.
Fair comment, more restrictions, you put on something that it less the value, right? So fair point. I never looked at it that way. Any other member of council? Gotta move, but we gotta get a second.
Go for, no, you've got
Oh, I've
mover and seconder.
Sorry.
Go for the vote if you're ready.
Any other comments though? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's been carried. Thank you, everyone. All right, so that, let's now to, goes to Councilor Bennett's action.
Thank you, your worship. Reference number PWPS 250315. Subject, bylaw number 25-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews for the third and final reading. And the background reads. The town of St. Andrews has been moving through the bylaw process for bylaw number 25-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews. The following process has taken place to date. Bylaw process to date. First, there was a public open house on February 5th, 2025. Next, there was a public hearing of objection on February 18th, 2025. We moved into first reading for March 3rd, 2025. Then second reading, March 17th, 2025, and third and final reading was tonight. It is recommended that the council approve the bylaw, but have it come into effect on May 1st. This will allow staff time to prepare signs, changes, and for educational material to be provided to the public. If council is comfortable with this bylaw, council can proceed to the third and final reading. And the motion before tonight reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to bylaw number 2025-01, a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of St. Andrews, and that it take effect on May the 1st, 2025, and I so move.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Seconder for motion is Councilor Harlow. Discussion.
I will add it as if it's part of the motion, I will add it to it. It's just, yeah, we just, for clarity's sake, your worship, there will be a section added that specifies that it doesn't come into effect till May 1st, so it's not just through the motion, but it's included in the bylaw. So as you go to court, it'll be challenged. In fact, okay, yeah. Do you think we need amendment because it's being passed, or it's just through the motion?
No, it's through the motion. So your worship, it'll be added right to the end above where the staff signature and the mayor's signature will be. It'll state enactment on May 1st. Correct. So we're tying it then that way.
Following council.
Correct.
All right. Looks like we can go ahead. That I did ask. There's no other comments. All in favor of going to third reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is every count. So I will read it by title. Of course, then going with some bylaw number 25.
Your worship, just read the actual title. That's it.
Oh, really?
Don't go through it. You've already read it twice through full title. You just have to read it by the main title.
Sure. What's going to do this? All right. This is a bylaw to regulate vehicle traffic in the town of Sayers. Let's get the bylaw number 25-01. By title, that was read the third time on the 7th day of
April
2025. Cold medicine is working well for me. That moves that one forward. Then next motion. Councilor Evil.
Page 166, council.
This is PWPS 250411. The subject is RCMP collective bargaining process letter. The background reads, members of the RCMP formed a bargaining unit in 2019 and have been actively engaged with the Government of Canada to sign a collective agreement. Because of the length of time of discussions for the initial agreement, negotiations are now underway for the next. Despite municipalities paying close to 70% of the costs, they are not directly involved in the negotiations or provide minimal input on any changes to the agreement. Council has been requested to send the attached letter that expresses the needed role local governments must play and it directly affects our levels of service and property taxes. Motion reads, Council of the Town of St. Andrews sends a letter to the Federal Minister of Public Safety emphasizing the need for municipalities to be more actively involved in negotiations of the National Police Federation as it relates to the provisions of RCMP services.
So moved. Thank you, Councilor Neal. Seconder for that motion to Councilor Bennett. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of bringing this letter, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
everybody, so I'll make sure to leave that counselor and then go back to the council Bennett.
Thank you again. Reference number PWPS 250417, subject community priorities for the RCMP for 2025. The background. Every year, council sets community priorities for the RCMP to focus on enhancing for the safety of the overall community. Council met with representatives of the RCMP on March 31st, 2025 to discuss these with council and the community. Council should formalize the top 3 community priorities with a motion of council. These priorities are built on community, staff, and council feedback and RCMP statistics and recommendation. And the motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews sets the following 2025 community priorities for the RCMP. First, crime reduction. Second, enhance road safety and focus on speeding. And third, community engagement and visibility. And I so move.
Appreciate that, Council Bennett, and once again, a seconder. Council, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go right off the board. Council Blanchard was behind you with a hand. Council Blanchard gets the second. That's a little excitement I can give you on a council night. Okay, we got a mover and a seconder discussion. It's just important to note that under these broad topics, we can have sub-targets, like crime reduction. One thing we talked about is property theft, for example. I do see that speeding, when we were talking about road safety, a subcategory would be, for example, speeding, which we know in the summer in particular has been something that is, it's only a few select individuals, but it does create a lot of, I know it calls for me, and I'm sure it calls for a lot of you as well, for example. So there will be sub categories, and also we're looking forward to, I believe it is on the 10th, when the Regional Service Commission sets their priorities for the region as well. So just a little bit of background on that. So if there's no other comments, I'll call the question. Oh,
Sorry, I'd just like to quickly thank District J to your worship. And just to note that it wasn't just local officers that came and had a discussion with council a couple of weeks ago. They did bring like some of the senior management staff.
Andy Leclerc West.
And stuff. So, you know, they do take this seriously and took their time to come down and meet with councils. And we do appreciate the ongoing dialogue we are able to have with them, especially as a municipal service agreement partner.
Question, all in favor of those priorities, please signify by saying aye. Once again, that is everybody. And we bring on, I think we're on the last motion of the evening. Councilor Blanchard.
Thank you, Worship. Reference number RE 250411. Subject is memorandum of understanding for the food forest. At the direction of council, staff have been working with the St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated to create a memorandum of understanding for the use of 1.6 acres of land at the corner of Acadia Road and Champlain Avenue for the creation of a food forest. As part of the request, council wanted to review the MOU prior to final approval. See the attached document for details. The St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated would like to start work as of April 15th, 2025 on the food forest, and will meet with staff biannually to review the project and provide updates. If council is satisfied with the MOU, council can proceed with the approval. And the motion that's before council is that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves a memorandum of understanding for the development of a food forest by the St. Andrews and Area Open Door Program Incorporated, and I so move.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Okay. Councilor Earl, that one was clear. Discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, Councilor, that is passed. And looking forward to seeing the food forest and come to life in that area. So if you have green space preserved to use. All right, so nothing under new business. So we will go to question period. Would anyone in the audience have any questions pertaining to tonight's agenda? Ask if you say your name and your address, and please come up to the podium.
Susan Sibbs, 175 Princess Royal Street. The question is, Councilor mentioned that the parking lot in Sophia was recommended to sell for less than the appraised price. And I was wondering what the appraised price was.
Is that, some report, do you have that handy, Mr. Copper?
Yep, through your worship, the appraised price was 96,000.
96. 75, so I didn't guess, $96,000, so it's 16,000 less than appraised. Is what came in as the only, bid I believe on the property. Thank you. Any other questions from the public?
Your worship, I have a question online.
We will do one more call in the room. We'll switch to online. That's okay.
Yep.
Okay, we will jump on the line. Thank you, Mr. Copper.
Mr. Riley, you have the floor to council. I'll do my best so that they can hear you.
Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this council's patience. I know your time is important. And I was the writer of the letter this morning. I just was made aware of the fencing amendments, and I just wanted to pass on my appreciation to this council for tabling the amendment for a period of time so we can get more of the information to this group. So I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. I'm glad that you're able to get online and as well council to take a look at that more detail.
Great.
What's online?
Thank you.
Yeah, no one else online, your worship.
All right, so that will wrap up the question period. So we're going to jump to Councilor and Deputy Mayor's comments. Councilor Earl.
Just a quick shout out to our very own Mr. Paul Knocker, who wrote a very nice article about downtown recently. Just wanted to say thank you very much for shining such a wonderful light on this recently. So,
Thank you.
And I think he almost got away with this. I was gonna get right on it. That's a good lead to happy birthday, Mr. Knocker. What a great way to celebrate. 25.
Hey, don't mind it. Thank you, council.
Maybe next year the Chiefs will get it done to celebrate your year.
Hopefully.
Any other member of council? That'd be very good.
Please keep those bags coming in.
Yeah.
The food banks really need them. I took what they designed with your group that you gave me, a few others, I took 85 bags over, and they said they could use more. That's not a lot. They have been collecting, so.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will have some to donate for you. Thank you, sir. I'm one of those ones that has to buy them almost every time. I'm one of them. All right, so that wraps up Councilor Deputy Mayor. Myself, I'm good this evening, so I'll be looking to go to closed session as per
The Local Governance Act, Section 68(1)J, labor and employment matters, including the negotiations of collective agreements.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover to go to closed session? I've got Councilor Edith, seconded by Councilor Neal. All in favor of going to closed session? Thank you. We'll give a moment for the media to shut down and obviously for the people, the public. So thank you for attending. Birthday tonight, yeah. All day, actually. Well, you cold and flu.
Your worship, we're recording, please. Bring us out of closed.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Tell you about my cold and flu medication.
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion to come out of closed session? I got Councilor Goumichel, seconded by Councilor Eden. All in favor of coming out of closed? Motion to adjourn, Deputy Mayor Actie, seconded by Councilor Bennett. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, council.